So picture this. You're staring at a broken air compressor in the middle of a brutal July heat wave.
Oh, yeah. Absolute nightmare scenario.
Right. And the technician taps his tablet, looks up, and just shows you a number. $12,000.
That hurts just hearing it.
It does. And in that moment, there's this expectation that you are about to engage in, pure cold math. You need cold air. The hardware and labor cost 12 grand, end of transaction.
Yeah, it feels entirely binary, right? The machine is broken, and here is the capital required to replace it. I mean, most of us assume the transaction just begins and ends with that physical equipment.
But if you look at the internal training materials for that exact technician,
Right.
that cold math completely vanishes. You're actually standing in the middle of this highly engineered psychological landscape.
It's totally invisible to the customer, too.
Exactly. It's an invisible financial architecture designed to completely rewire how you perceive money, especially in a moment of panic. And we actually have our hands on the blueprint for this.
Which is pretty rare to see.
It is. We are looking at an internal April 2026 merchant guide from a company called Hartzell's Heat and Air. It's basically a playbook detailing how their sales techs pitch consumer financing for massive home repairs, specifically using a platform called Wisetack.
Yeah, and on the surface, a merchant guide for HVAC financing sounds, like the cure for insomnia. You wouldn't really expect it to be a page-turner.
Not at all.
But the data embedded in this document actually reveals the secret mechanics of consumer behavior. It outlines exactly how the industry mitigates your financial anxiety before you even realize you're anxious.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out the hidden mechanics of consumer financing, explore why having more debt options actually makes us feel, less overwhelmed, and most importantly, learn how to spot a massive financial trap the next time you're checking out at a store.
Yeah, that trap is a big one.
It is huge. So we are treating this April 2026 document as essentially a masterclass in behavioral psychology and sales transparency, because the centerpiece of this new update for Hartzell's is that Wisetack has just rolled out incredibly long loan terms.
Yeah, remarkably long.
Right. They are instructing technicians to offer 7-year and 10-year loan options. That is 120 months to pay off an air conditioner or like a massive geothermal system.
Which fundamentally alters the scale of the purchase. The underlying math they are working with involves APRs ranging from 0% up to 35.9%.
Wow, up to 35.9.
Yeah, depending entirely on the term length and the individual customer's credit profile.
Right.
But the merchant fee, the cut that Hartzell's pays Wisetack to even offer this financing that stays at a flat 3.9% per transaction.
Interesting.
And crucially, the document stresses that there is absolutely no prepayment penalty for the customer.
Wait, a decade of payments for a home repair? That just sounds extreme. 10 years ago, I didn't have the same career, I didn't live in the same house, and I certainly wouldn't expect an appliance to still be top of mind financially a decade later.
It sounds absurd on paper.
It does. It actually reminds me of a classic behavioral economics trick you see in high-end restaurants.
Another menu pricing thing.
Yeah, exactly. You sit down at a fancy steakhouse,
Right.
and right at the top of the menu is this $150 Wagyu tomahawk steak. The chef doesn't actually expect many people to order the tomahawk.
Right, it's a decoy.
Exactly. The place that there's a psychological anchor. So when your eyes drift down to the, $60 ribeye,
Yeah.
you suddenly perceive it as a totally reasonable, responsible choice.
What's fascinating here is that the internal metrics from Hartzell's prove your tomahawk analogy is playing out in real time right at the kitchen table.
Really?
Yeah, according to their data from April 2025 to January 2026, simply offering those 10-year terms increases sales conversion by 13%.
Wait, 13%? Just for offering it?
Just for having it on the screen. And that 13% bump happens even when the customer ultimately chooses a shorter payoff term.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because I would assume people presented with a 10-year option would just, take the 10-year option.
You'd think so.
But you're saying the mere existence of the 120-month plan makes them more likely to buy a 3-year or 5-year plan.
Exactly. It comes down to establishing a psychological safety net. When a homeowner is staring down a massive $12,000 HVAC replacement, the brain registers that as a catastrophic threat to their financial stability.
Right, it's panic mode.
Total panic.
Right.
But when the tech shows them a 10-year term at a mid-range APR, That $12,000 shrinks into a digestible like $130 to $180 a month.
Oh, I see.
It transforms a catastrophic capital expense into just a standard monthly utility bill. The customer thinks, well, worst case scenario, if I lose my job or the economy tanks, I can definitely scrape together $130 a month.
It effectively removes the fear of bankruptcy from the equation. The friction just disappears.
It does. They relax, they commit to the installation, and then, because there's no prepayment penalty, they often choose a shorter, more aggressive payoff plan. They needed the comfort of knowing that long-term safety net existed.
That is so clever. It completely eliminates the sticker shock paralysis that stalls so many major purchases. And the document outlines how this confidence actually manipulates time itself within their sales pipeline.
Time is everything in that business.
It really is. When people aren't agonizing over depleting their savings account, the time it takes to close a job just plummets. Jobs between $8,000 and $15,000 are closing in about 10 days instead of the usual 14.
That's a huge drop.
And those massive, complex $15,000+ jobs, those are closing in 15 days instead of 19. For a contractor, shaving 4 days off a sales cycle is massive.
Oh, absolutely. Time is overhead in the trades. If a customer says they need to, think about it for a week, that is a week where the contractor's inventory is sitting idle and their dispatch board is in flux. Providing an immediate, viable path forward accelerates the entire operational velocity of the business.
Okay, so if the 10-year Wisetack option is increasing conversions by 13% and shaving days off the sales cycle, logic dictates that Hartzell should just mandate Wisetack for every single customer and call it a day, right?
That would be the simple route.
But they don't. The playbook lists 4 totally different financing options. Why complicate the sales process with a multi-lender system if Wisetack is already acting as the perfect psychological anchor?
Well, because a single lender can never accommodate the entire spectrum of consumer credit profiles. Financing isn't a monolith.
Fair enough.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Hartzell has constructed what the finance industry calls a credit waterfall. It allows the sales tech to match the financial tool to the customer's specific credit reality in real time.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of this 4-part tool belt.
Yeah.
First up, they have Synchrony. The guide notes this is deployed for larger installations and promotional 0% offers, but it requires a significantly higher credit threshold to get an approval.
Right.
It acts as their premium tier.
Yeah, Synchrony is designed for the pristine credit profile. It's the lender you leverage when a customer wants to finance a $20,000 system absolutely free of interest over a set period. But the underwriting algorithms for those prime loans are incredibly strict.
Then second, they have Wells Fargo. Interestingly, the guide positions this specifically for Trane dealer financing and specific home improvement loans.
Like a manufacturer partnership.
Yeah, it looks like brand loyal financing, where the manufacturer is likely subsidizing the loan terms to move their specific hardware.
Makes sense.
Third is Wisetack, which we've been discussing as the flexible middle ground. It handles terms from 3 to 120 months. It has a lower credit threshold than Synchrony. And critically, the document emphasizes that Wisetack uses a soft pull on the customer's credit.
We should really pause on the mechanics of that soft pull because it is a massive behavioral trigger.
Oh, totally.
A traditional hard pull registers as an official inquiry on your credit report. It can temporarily ding your score, and if you're rejected, it leaves a permanent mark that signals, financial desperation to other lenders.
Which nobody wants.
Exactly. But a soft pull operates more like a background check. It reviews your credit history without leaving a footprint or affecting your score at all.
Which lowers the barrier to entry. I mean, if applying doesn't hurt my credit score, I have zero reason to say no when the technician asks if I want to see my options.
Precisely.
And finally, the 4th option in the waterfall is JBFin. The playbook positions this as the ultimate backup protocol. JBFin uses a network of over 30 different lenders to approve credit scores all the way down to 590, mostly for warranty financing.
The cascading nature of JBFin is crucial to understand here. In the back end, if lender A rejects the application, the algorithm instantly passes it to lender B, then lender C, cascading down the risk pool in milliseconds.
Oh, wow. So it's happening instantly.
Yes, and this is entirely about preserving the dignity of the customer. Think about the intense vulnerability of having a contractor in your living room telling you that you owe them $15,000 and then asking you to apply for credit.
It's super stressful.
If Hartzell's only utilized one strict prime lender like Synchrony, a rejection would kill the sale instantly.
Because it would be incredibly humiliating. Being financially rejected in your own kitchen while a stranger watches you hold your tablet. I just want them out of my house.
Right. It is the ultimate sales killer. So by utilizing this waterfall, starting with prime credit, moving to the soft pull middle ground of Wisetack, and ending with the cascading safety net of JB Finn, there is almost always a yes available somewhere in the ecosystem.
And the script they provide the technicians to initiate this waterfall is completely frictionless. The guide literally instructs them to say, let me find it here. If you'd like, I can also show you what this looks like as a monthly payment. Some customers prefer to break up the cost over time.
So casual.
Exactly, no pressure at all. It takes about a minute, the options populate side by side on a screen, and the customer taps the one that fits their budget. It shifts the dynamic entirely. The technician stops being an adversary demanding a massive check and becomes a collaborator helping you solve a cash flow problem.
It is a masterstroke in user experience, honestly. However, an optimized approval process doesn't mean the debt itself is inherently safe.
Which brings us to the most critical distinction in the entire document. Because while Hartzell's has optimized the logistics of getting you approved, they draw a very hard line in the sand regarding the ethics of the loans they actually offer.
Yes, this part is huge.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The guide explicitly bans a specific type of loan that you see advertised constantly in big box retail stores. They demand their technicians understand the difference between true 0% APR and deferred interest.
We are getting into the actual mechanics of retail debt traps here. The phrase, no interest if paid in full within 12 months, is ubiquitous. You see it on furniture, electronics, and home improvement financing. But the underlying mathematics are brutal.
Let's look under the hood of deferred interest. The guide calls it the one to avoid offering and details the terrifying mechanics. When you sign up for a deferred interest plan, you enter a promotional period, let's say 12 months.
Okay.
During that year, you aren't required to pay interest. But in the background, interest is silently accruing at a massive multiplier. The document notes it is often 24% or higher.
It is literally a shadow ledger. The lender is calculating every cent of interest you would be paying on the original balance week by week and staring it in the background.
Just waiting.
Yes. And if you pay off the entire balance before month 12 ends, that shadow ledger is deleted, you win. But if you owe even a single penny at the end of that promotional period, if you miscalculated your installments or your final payment was processed a day late, the trap snaps shut.
It's basically a financial taximeter. Imagine getting into a cab that promises a completely free ride as long as you reach your destination in exactly 12 minutes.
Okay, I like this analogy.
But what you don't know is that there is a meter in the trunk running at a massive premium the entire time. If you step out of the cab at 12 minutes and 1 second, the driver demands the full premium fare calculated from the very moment you enter the vehicle.
Which is insane.
It is. The guide shares a literal nightmare scenario. A customer finances a $2,400 job, misses the payoff by a tiny fraction, and all that back accrued interest drops onto their statement at once. Suddenly, that $2,400 repair costs over $4,200.
The penalty is entirely disproportionate to the mistake, and Hartzell's internal playbook relies heavily on data from WalletHub to justify avoiding this. According to their research, 56% of consumers fundamentally do not understand how deferred interest accrues.
Which means the majority of people signing these contracts think no interest for 12 months simply means interest begins growing on month 13 solely on whatever small balance is left over.
Exactly. They think it's just normal interest starting late. And the data gets worse. Of the consumers who do understand the mechanics, 65% view a business that utilizes deferred interest negatively, and 77% consider the practice inherently unfair.
I have a hard time believing an HVAC company is agonizing over the morality of consumer debt just for the sake of being good citizens, though.
Oh, definitely not.
Right. If 65% of people view the business negatively when the trap snaps shut, Hartzell's is likely banning deferred interest to protect their own Yelp reviews and brand reputation. They don't want a customer blaming them for a $4,200 surprise bill.
It is absolutely a matter of brand preservation, but it's also a highly calculated competitive weapon. Think about it. Who are Hartzell's biggest competitors for a $15,000 HVAC install?
Oh, the massive big box hardware retailers.
Yes, and those big box retailers aggressively push their own store-branded credit cards, which are almost universally built on deferred interest models.
Oh, wow. So Hartzell's is using honesty as an offensive strategy.
Precisely.
The guide gives their technicians an exact script to dismantle the competitor's quote. They're instructed to look the customer in the eye and say, the financing we offer is a true 0% loan, not one of those no interest if paid in full plans that hit you with a massive backdated interest bill if you miss by $1.
It's brilliant.
With true 0%, if you don't finish paying in the promo period, interest simply starts applying to the remaining balance going forward. No shadow ledger, no back pay.
They are educating the consumer on financial traps in real time. It builds immense trust while simultaneously planting the seed that the slightly cheaper quote from the big box store might actually contain a hidden interest bomb.
It disarms the competitor completely.
Completely.
So what does this all mean? It means the next time you are sitting at a checkout counter for a new appliance, or at your kitchen table reviewing an estimate, and someone brightly offers you 0% financing, you now possess the armor to protect yourself.
You know exactly what to look for.
You know the exact mechanism to question. You can ask, is this true 0% or is this a deferred interest plan? Knowing the mechanical difference between those two structures can save you thousands of dollars.
It shifts the power dynamic back to the consumer. You're no longer navigating the invisible architecture blind.
But before we wrap up, there is one final, provocative detail buried at the very end of the Hartzell's marketing instructions that we really need to look at.
Oh, the website integrations.
Yes. The guide instructs the company to actively embed Wisetack payment calculators directly onto their consumer-facing website. They want homeowners playing with monthly payment sliders on the geothermal and mini-split landing pages before they ever even call for an estimate.
Which completely changes the entry point of the funnel.
Right. Furthermore, they tell the sales team to inject pre-qualification links directly into their follow-up emails.
They are essentially pushing the credit waterfall upstream. They want the customer analyzing their own liquidity and securing capital before the technician even diagnoses the broken compressor.
Which forces us to ask a really interesting question about the evolution of the trades. If your local AC repairman is now providing embeddable loan calculators on their website and, sending you credit pre-approvals via email before they even arrive at your house, are home service providers fundamentally transforming into on-the-spot financial advisors?
It's a valid question. The skill set required to operate a sustainable contracting business is clearly no longer limited to the technical mastery of the hardware. Financial fluency and the ability to package liquidity is becoming just as critical as the installation itself.
And think about how that alters the way we trust the people fixing our homes.
Yeah.
We invite these professionals in because they are the gatekeepers to our comfort, literally our heating and cooling.
Yeah.
But if they are simultaneously acting as the gatekeepers to a 10-year line of credit, the dynamic is entirely different. We started this deep dive talking about the expectation of cold math, a broken unit, and a massive number on a clipboard. But that clipboard doesn't just hold an invoice anymore.
Now it holds a psychological roadmap.
Meticulously designed to ensure that a $12,000 crisis feels like a breezy, manageable monthly subscription.
Because the actual product being sold isn't just the air conditioner, it's the architecture of your financial comfort.
I think we'll leave it right there. Thank you all for taking this deep dive with us. It's been an absolute blast uncovering the hidden mechanics behind these massive decisions. Until next time, stay curious and always verify the mechanics of that 0% offer.
Take care, everyone.